Hello again, Konze. Today I wanted to show off a speedrun of the Mighty Muscle Monkey Madness quest. This is the double Furious Rajang quest that came out recently for the Alpha Gamma layered set, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, I haven't made it yet. But yeah, we were grinding this quest out a little bit. I'm using Frostcraft Crit Draw Greatsword. As is always the case, obviously Frostcraft TCS would be more efficient, but I'm a Monster Hunter boomer, and so I will continue to play the playstyle that I know best. This, I believe, is done TA style. I didn't use mantles or like slinger ammo or anything like that, I don't believe. But I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you, we'll see. The run starts off a tiny bit shaky, but then we have a really nice middle section where where I sort of handled the double Rajang AI. Like, as much as I hate multiple monster quests where they're like stacked together in the same area, we handled it fairly well, and so then by doing so we managed to get them to damage each other quite efficiently. Yeah, so we get hit a couple of times right at the start, and then towards the end I started to kind of panic a little bit, but overall 751 for Crit Draw Greatsword I believe is a pretty solid time, and so I thought I'd go over it here. Yeah, I'll kind of... there isn't much to talk about here. I've done like guides on Furious Jang and stuff with Greatsword in the past. However, I do think the section of this video where we handle both Rajang AI simultaneously is going to be sort of somewhat interesting. I have maybe some tips, some pointers that I can mention. Aside from that, right now it's just pretty standard openings. You'll notice that a pretty big part of this fight is knowing when not to commit. So you'll see a lot of the times I'm going for like a level 2 or even a level 1. I'm not committing for the full level 3. Also here, I should probably just like use a full TCS, but I mean, again, I'm using crit draw, so even though it might be more DPS, I'm gonna go with my crit draws. Yeah, so a lot of the... by the way, when you get a KO with because I'm using Punishing Draw, when you get a KO, you don't want to go for 2 unsheathes. You want to go for a level 3 into a level like 2 or 3, because there's not enough time to sheath and then go for a level 3 again. I did mention earlier, but this run was recorded live. We do these streams at twitch.tv/konsoa. I do stream on YouTube as well, but we're probably going to be phasing those out for a couple of reasons. So make sure you follow me there if you want to catch the streams. But yeah, this was a run that we recorded probably like a week or so ago, closer to when the quest first came out. Unfortunately, I've had like other stuff to do, so I haven't been able to go over it. Another thing that's quite important for this fight is to make sure you don't knock Jang into the wall. So for example, you can see here, I angle myself, obviously that causes me to whiff, but I angle myself a little bit differently when I suspect that he's somewhat close to being toppled. Of course, maybe I have like misjudged when I think he's about to be toppled, that's fine. But when I do think that he's about to be toppled, you'll see that rather than like, for example here, I'm aiming through his arm to hit his head, as opposed to like the quicker and more obvious method. Because that way I can like aim... his topple, by the way, is... the direction it travels in is based on which direction that you're facing when you hit him. Or something like that. I don't know the specifics of it, but basically, by changing the way your character's angled, you can control where Rajang topples to. And so making sure that you don't... making sure that you don't send Rajang into the wall is pretty huge for this fight. So you can see how I play things a little bit safely. I'm going for a lot of level 1 unsheaths rather than level 3s, and I'm keeping a sort of eye on where the Jang is. I had a feeling there that lightning bolt was going to stagger him. Unfortunately, I got hit. So that's the reason I committed for just attacking. Here, for example, you'll see again, I could maybe have gone for like a level 3 there, but I'm mostly committing to level 1s while I can because it's a little bit risky. Keeping an eye on where that second Jang is as you're lining up for punishes, and knowing that the Jangs will stagger each other fairly frequently is pretty essential to getting a good time in this fight, in my opinion. Like if you like, for example, with that laser punch previously, I knew that those lasers would stagger back the second Jang. That's the reason I went for the attack I went for. Yeah, so like you can see, I'm trying to keep both Rajangs in my eyesight at both times and have an idea like of what they're both going for, so that I can time my punches accordingly and not get myself completely killed. Generally speaking, at least with Greatsword, you want to like kill one Jang again, just to keep a peek out before you, and just have an idea for what various moves the other Jang can use and how to dodge them. So you saw I rolled out of the way earlier than I needed to previously because I wanted to avoid getting punished by the second Jang. And then it's just a large Jang. I don't really like the large Jang fight as much. I find large Jang to be a little bit more annoying. Its AoE seems to have more reach, and it can be a little bit more difficult to land at the punishes. But it's not too big a deal. It's very similar to just the previous Jang. Yeah, you just want to line up for, like there for example, going for a level 2 rather than a level 3, because I knew that if I committed to a level 3 it would be a sort of 50-50. I would only get the punish if I got lucky with Jang's positioning. And so oftentimes I'll try to commit to just a level 2 instead, you know. It's better to get some damage off rather than none. I do wish I'd found an opportunity to sharpen here. We do dip into white sharpness, or maybe had run some more handicraft, would have been nice. We hadn't. This run could still be optimized. I haven't fully worked out the kinks yet, but it's not a big deal. We get him down. That there, for example, is an example of when I overcommitted. I really should have gone for a level 2 there rather than a level 3. But and again, we go for the 2 level 3s when he's KO'd, because it's a shorter opening than the regular topples. I believe like the proper strat is to tenderize one of Jang's arms. Like there, for example, you saw me move to the left. Rather than punishing directly where I was standing, I moved to the left first because I wanted to make sure that I toppled him away from the wall, so that I didn't get the counter animation, so that I did get this nice long knockdown. He should be like 1 hit away from D. He won't D rampage while he's down like that, and so oftentimes you'll get him to within like 1 point of damage away from there we go, being knocked out of rampage mode. You can even use like a stone or slinger ammo or whatever to knock him out of that if you're feeling spicy. You'll see I'm doing the 3 claw swipes to keep him in rage mode frequently. You don't really need that to do that much on this quest. I don't know why I was. It's mostly just forced of habit. It only takes a couple of like level 3s to get Rajang enraged anyway, and so it's probably a waste of time. But you know, at least at the start of the hunt, when Jang's rage threshold is a little bit less instant, it can be worth doing. Obviously, feel free to wallbang and stuff like that. This is a TA run, and so I've not been wallbanging or using mantles and that kind of thing, but you are welcome to. Whenever I do a run without wallbangs, I do get like several people asking me like, isn't it better to wallbang? Yeah, it's more DPS it's a good opening and stuff. But this is a TA run where we try to avoid using those kinds of strats, but obviously you're more than welcome to do so. Otherwise, I don't really, and you can see here, for example, now that we've de-rampaged him, I have no interest in doing the 3 claw swipes to get in rage mode again, because he's only a few hits away from being in rage mode at any one given time, and generally speaking, clawing onto Jang is kind of an exercise in futility. You're mostly just like throwing up. You're hoping to get lucky, essentially, because Jang has so many instant punches. He likes to spam the instant punch move, and he has so many moves that punish you for trying to claw onto him that it's not worth the effort. Yeah, you see, it only took a couple of hits. Of course, there towards the end of the fight, Jang did just waste like 30-40 seconds by using a string of unpunishable moves, but what can you do, I suppose? The flurry of punches can be unsafely punished if you're running. I thought he was going to die here, that's the reason I go for that. Generally speaking, that's not a move you want to go for, because it wastes a lot of Frostcraft and a lot of sharpness. It gets your bar down, and you can see I'm getting kind of screwed for it. But I was really convinced that he was only like a single hit away from dying. Unfortunately here, you see Mind's Eye proc, not Mind's Eye proc, but yeah, unfortunately I knocked the arm. That attack definitely would have killed him if I'd landed it. But that is the reason I run Mind's Eye. If you aren't running Mind's Eye there, then you bounce off of him and you get punished for it. Yeah, so hopefully this made sense. This is probably the best run I've gotten in quite a while. Yeah, I guess I'll talk about the set in a little bit more detail once I've shown all the decorations manually. I think we were like just chatting. I was talking to chat here. I was surprised that the time was so efficient. The reason you see me delay there a little bit. But yeah, you can see we're using Black Fatalis blade, and we're using a Frostcraft Greatsword crit draw set, using the new Valkana AT set, the gamma pieces, as well as Frostfang arms. I've covered the Greatsword Frostcraft sets in a separate video, so I'll have that linked at the end in the end card, but I'll talk about the skills that I have now anyway. In terms of DPS, I have -10 affinity when you account for all the stuff that I have, and then Agitate will take us up to 0, and then Crit Draw will take us up to 100. And so I'm basically just running enough affinity to get to 100%. Other than that, it's mostly just DPS skills. I run enough handicraft to try and last me the entire hunt. As you can see, I probably could have used another point of handicraft on this set. So it's a shame I didn't run that, but we hadn't quite figured out how much handicraft we needed on this build yet. Other than that, it's pretty standard Crit Draw Greatsword skills. We've got like Focus, we've got as much DPS as we can stack, we've got Peak Performance from the AT Velk legs. Generally speaking, AT Velk has been a big improvement to the skills that you can run on Frostcraft Greatsword sets, so be sure to make that if you haven't got into it already. Otherwise, we have the secondary page of skills. Nothing super interesting here. Resuscitate just comes with the set. Mind's Eye is obviously, I explained, it's quite nice for if you bounce on the arms frequently, stops you from getting punished. The only notable thing is the health boost and recovery up here. I think most people would be tempted to run 3 points of health boost, 1 point of recovery up. But generally, the more points of recovery up you run and the less points of health boost you run, the easier it is for you to get to peak performance range to recover from chip. Now, my peak performance uptime isn't great against Rajang because it does a lot of little bits of chip. But by running less health boost and more recovery up, I'm basically guaranteeing that I'm always going to get myself to to full health like as quickly as possible to maintain peak performance uptime. But obviously, if you want a more consistent or like if you want to be at less risk of death, then you'll want to run max health boost. Aside from that, I think I've basically covered everything. Let me know if I missed anything or if you have any questions. But otherwise, yeah, I hope you have a lovely day. Take it easy. Bye bye.